In this episode, you will get more details about how I made a trailer for my indie game and why I decided to hold my first playtesting session to get better insights for game improvement. Hi there, I'm Exka and I'm working on a colony simulation indie game. In Too Far Too Late, you will take the role of an astronaut striving to survive on the Moon or Mars with other colonists. My game takes inspiration from great games like RimWorld, Stationeers and Oxygen Not Included. As I continue developing the game, I'm creating devlogs in which you can follow the last updates. This particular devlog is very special to me, because I will be discussing about two aspects of game development relatively new to me: creating a trailer and organizing playtesting sessions. This was my first time as creating a video game trailer. While I had a little experience in creating videos through the devlogs on my channel, producing a trailer was a new challenge, condensing various gameplay elements into a short video while also highlighting the unique aspects and challenges of my indie game. In my devlogs, I typically show in-game images captured during my testing sessions, recording hours of gameplay to present a newly implemented feature. However, trailers follow a different format. They are usually 2 minutes long and must be very dynamic. Also, game trailers often present both images of gameplay and cinematic sequences. For my trailer, I faced a decision. I could either prepare different base models and use all the animation capabilities of Blender to produce a video that looks like my game. Or I could develop a custom camera in Unity with free movements to directly show in-game actions. I chose to introduce a second camera and implemented a script to move it without any restriction. Unlike the in-game camera, which has a limited zoom, this new camera offers complete freedom of movement and a very smooth movement. This camera script also includes several practical functions not very common for a game camera: zooming to a specific position, making a gradual movement between two angles and position, and also a rotation movement around the selected point. All the camera controls can even be activated with the UI invisible. With all that, I could record many video clips with camera movements and present different outposts on the Moon and Mars. After several hours of video editing, I could finally publish my first trailer on YouTube. If you haven't had a chance to watch it yet, you can check it out using this link. The second new aspect I was experimenting with for the first time was organizing a playtesting session. Usually, I test the game alone, focusing on the newly implemented features to validate them. In this case, the goal of a playtesting session is significantly different. When a game accumulates many features and a working gameplay loop, it's easy for a developer to assume that players will go directly to the gameplay loop and enjoy the game. But in reality, new players often need to follow a learning curve to understand each mechanic and construct their understanding of the game. During this learning process, players may feel lost, overlook key features, or even become frustrated if they don't progress as expected. Consequently, they may never reach the enjoyable aspects of the game or even rage quit before understanding it. As my game is not prepared for a Steam demo release yet, my playtesting session have a specific goal, observing how quickly the player could learn the gameplay and if their interaction with the game felt intuitive or not. I invited 3 people to participate in this first playtesting session and I want to thank them a lot for their participation. First, we have Cap O'Neill, a very experienced gamer with a broad spectrum of gaming interests, from FPS to farming and simulation. He's a longtime friend from Discord. Next up was Equinox, a French YouTuber who is streaming almost every day. Equinox covers a wide array of game genres, including simulation, management, adventure, and many indie games. He creates extensive gameplay videos to cover each game in depth. Finally, we had the chance to invite Paolo, a game designer and developer. Paolo is the creative mind behind the game Roboplant, a management indie game available on Steam. Each participant received some orientation about how to play the game, like a small manual of orientations to ensure a smooth playtesting experience. We conducted the sessions on Discord, allowing me to record them for a better analysis. Since the game lacked a tutorial at this stage, providing basic orientation served as a first test to assess how quickly a player could adapt to the controls without forcing them to follow a step-by-step, button-by-button tutorial before allowing them to play. Without this initial orientation, I had the opportunity to test and confirm which controls came naturally to the participants and whether any hints were necessary to discover certain features. I could also observe their expectations in some key moments, such as when they started a new building, if they were checking the available resources, or how they defined the size of their outpost. To conclude each session, I had a set of questions to gather feedbacks on their overall experience. These included potential frustrations and specific expectations for a colony game.
Au début, t'es un petit peu paumé. Peut-être que c'était dans le document que tu m'avais donné, mais j'avais pas vu qu'il fallait appuyer sur B pour avoir les trucs de construction. Je l'ai lu au moment où tu me l'as envoyé, et puis je l'ai pas relu. Mais une fois qu'on a le menu de construction, on comprend mieux déjà un petit peu ce qu'il faut faire. Ça va, c'est pas trop compliqué.
Une fois que les mécaniques de gameplay sont posées, que la boucle de gameplay est posée, que le design global il est fait, le plus difficile c'est l'équilibrage. Parce que ça dépend de la cible en fait, c'est ça le truc.
What you've done, I can play for a while. There are enough features I can play, but the experience is a bit ruined by some of the blockers you have, like the UI is a bit blocking there.
In conclusion, the free playtesting session had some common observation within the participants. First of all, while the building system itself was clear, the user interface was a bit confusing, with approximately 40 different objects available in the same list without a logical order. It was challenging for the player to find a specific object. To address this, I'm planning to classify the object by functions related to gameplay, like energy transportation or airtight constructions. With that, the player will immediately understand that power must be transported by cables and they need to place a roof to keep the atmosphere inside their base. Another source of confusion was the airlock. When placed without any cable or energy production, it could leave the player stranded outside the base. To avoid this situation, I implemented a bypass function that keeps both doors of the airlock open until it can be powered properly. So the player can now build the airlock without the risk of getting stuck due to a lack of energy. Another common issue in the free playtesting session was the definition of the initial size of the outpost. Players tended to build the foundation of the base, then the walls, and when starting to place bigger objects like a battery or a crafting table, they realized that their base was too small, requiring them to dismount the walls and expand it. I found that player was not expecting the wall to be as big and blocky as they are. Instead, they were expecting thinner walls that could be placed on existing foundations, which is almost a convention in base building games, and that was the main drawback. On the positive side, there were no report of game-breaking bugs or crashes, and the game showed compatibility with various hardware configurations. Also, we could test that it was possible to capture the game window for streaming it without complication. In terms of performance, participants consistently maintained a frame rate of 60 FPS. This indicates that there were no performance issues at this point in development. To finish, the playtesting sessions were initially scheduled for half an hour of gameplay, but with all the game's content, participants engaged with the game for more than an hour, which was a great surprise to me. So the playtesting sessions were a great opportunity to adjust my game development priorities and focus on what truly matters to the player experience. After implementing all the improvements I want for the game, I plan to organize more playtesting sessions with different participants to validate that these improvements enhance the gaming experience. For now, the most significant change I wanted to address was to implement a thin wall that the player could place on the edge of a tile. We made the modification to one of the walls and adapted the building system to test this change. The result was quite promising. This improvement will make the gameplay more intuitive and generate better visuals for the player's bases. With it, the players are now able to customize more their bases when compared with the larger walls. That would be too easy if this change was not breaking many other systems in the game. The pathfinding, task system, airflow and room detection were not compatible immediately. Characters could even access an inventory from behind a wall. That was a lot of system to adapt, but I was up to the challenge. It took me about a whole month to make these changes to the game. But the good thing was that I managed to implement some performance optimization during this process. In typical colony games, the position of each object constructed on the map is stored in a data structure. For my pathfinding system, I implemented a simplified map that registers only the walkable tiles and the associated movement cost from one tile to another. This concept of movement cost is crucial in a pathfinding system to ensure it always provides the best path between 2 points. In this simplified map, I could add a pre-processing of all the values and use them directly in the path calculation. As the construction is done on a frame, the colonists have some special movements. A character can jump down from a frame to the ground, but not the contrary. And having all this data pre-processed, my pathfinding system no longer needs to check the building data to look for the positions of the frames. In addition to this data, I also store the positions of the new walls, so the task system can define locations where specific inventories can be accessed without allowing a colonist to take an item or build a machine behind a wall. With all these significant changes in place, the gameplay experience has greatly improved and become quite satisfactory. In the next steps of the development process, my priorities will include more quality of life improvements that could be detected thanks to the playtesting sessions. I will continue to fix some remaining bugs and begin the implementation of the event system, which I have already discussed in the past devlogs. This event generator will play an important role in creating challenges for the player, encouraging them to explore, craft, and expand their colony to build larger bases. That's it for today. That was a major update of my indie game, and I'm very thankful to all of you who reached out and took part in the playtesting sessions. There are still some significant changes in the backlog that I need to implement before I can open more playtesting opportunities. If you're interested, you can join our Discord community or drop a comment below this video, so we can stay in contact for future playtesting sessions. If you prefer, you can also wait until I'm ready to publish a public demo of the game on Steam. Don't forget to follow my channel if you want to stay up to date with the next devlog. And of course, if you found this update interesting, thanks for hitting the like button. See you next time!